For a long time, the scientific of all the world had been studying the history of humanity and the cultural heritage of their ancestors. The public has agreed that the wisdom of previous generations should be preserved and preserved. Is it really so necessary? It is thanks to culture and heritage that many people have been able to preserve their own identities. The destructive force of wars has destroyed villages and cities, but tradition have lived and they helped people adapt to the new reality. Historic monuments are associated with the centers of events. They preserve the history of the people of that time. Awareness of cultural heritage makes a person more evolved and rich spiritually. It encourages his heart to search for trust and enrichment. It is very important to feel a connection with the previous generations. Many works of art, thoughts, and achievements are still relevant today, which is simply amazing. Respect for one's roots is a true manifestation of patriotism.
Recently, considerable attention has been paid to the destruction of historical monuments during the numerous armed conflicts around the world. However, it is less widely known that and in the event of armed conflict, cultural property enjoys the protection of international humanitarian law. Why is it so important to protect cultural heritage when there are attacks on human life and attacks on vital infrastructure? Respect for the human dignity of the population and respect for its culture are equivalent. The destruction of cultural property can be perceived not as a simple destruction of objects such as uh, churches and libraries, but as an attempt to destroy the cultural identity of an entire society. Thus, efforts to protect the cultural values of the population and therefore their dignity are important component of humanitarian action to provide the protection to this population. We all know that World War II, Second World War, caused enormous damage to all countries and numerous cultural sites were destroyed. So we have to learn from our past and be more careful to our cultural heritage.
The impact of natural disasters on cultural heritage is very sad. There is nothing to help preserve cultural heritage. Social cataclysm not only destroy families and take the lives of people, but also wipe out of the most valuable works of art from the face of the earth. Among the national factors that have a negative impact on heritage monuments, climate change takes precedence. They are very diverse, but strong hurricane winds and heavy rainfall are especially destructive. At the same time, as accumulating changes in the natural environment caused by slow climatic changes, including global warming, also lead to the destruction of monuments. In recent decades, European cities and the UNESCO heritage cities located in them have been severely affected by floods. So, in 2002, many European rivers overflooded their banks due to prolonged torrential autumn rains. At the same time, parts of some historical centers were flooded. Primarily, the embankments of many cities on the heritage list, including, for example, Prague, Vienna, Budapest. Prague was particularly affected, in which the water level in some places reached 6-7 meters. It turned out that such floods occur here once every 500 years. However, everything happened again on a larger scale in the summer of 2013. Of course, heritage cities are threatened by fast moving climatic phenomena and, above all, by hurricanes. These objects include the Everglades National Park, located on the Florida Peninsula in the United States. The mostly swampy landscapes of the park is exceptionally rich in flora and fauna. About 200 species of plants grow here, both tropical and temperate. The animal world is also diverse, especially bird species are widely represented. At the same time, crocodiles, alligators rarely found together. Puma live in the park.
So, in that part of video, I want to make a message about globalization and its effect on a cultural heritage. As well as known, the term globalization is the word used to describe the growing interdependence of the world's economies, cultures, and populations, brought about by cross-border trade in goods and services, technology, and the flows of investment, people, and information. But mostly, it seems like spreading the like-mindedness to the whole world and make them similarly identical. But there is a significant part of each country. It's obviously cultural and the cultural heritage. That's definitely. So if we're gonna let the globalization to make our lives look alike, we're gonna lose our futures and identity. And there is a question, what makes each country especially identified? Of course, there is answer different cultures and legacy from our ancestors. And in that case, I want to say to globalization, do not affect on the cultural identity because it's gonna ruin and erase all of these things and heritage that were created by our ancestors.
To be kept alive, intangible cultural heritage must be relevant to its community, continuously recreated and transmitted from one generation to another. There is a risk that certain elements of intangible cultural heritage could die out or disappear without help. But safeguarding does not mean fixing or freezing this problem. Safeguarding intangible cultural heritage is about the transferring of knowledge, skills, and meaning. Therefore, to a large extent, any safeguarding measure refers to strengthening and reinforcing the diverse and varied circumstances, tangible and intangible, that are necessary for the continuous evolution and the interpretation of intangible cultural heritage, as well as for its transmission to future generations. Also, it is necessary to encourage knowledge of the intangible heritage and also to give various benefits to people who respect and know their country heritage well. For example, every citizen, in my opinion, of course, should take a test after graduation which determined not only the subsequent tax on his life in this country, but also will give various privileges. It is also necessary at school to instill in students a love for their homeland, add subjects to study the culture of their nation, and so on. Probably we should to develop a system of encouraging students who receive excellent grades in the subject. We need to pay more attention to television and occupy national channels with useful content containing the cultural heritage of our country. This will raise the spirit of our population and, as a result, will improve us, the Kazakhs, as a nation.